All right, folks. Good to see y'all today. You may be getting this live or maybe recorded. We've been having some technical problems today, but we're going to push on anyway. Good to see everybody. So what do we have today? Man, we got Fauci and Trump sparring in public. Oh, what a match. Somebody needs to put a stop to this, man. Oh, well, yeah, we might not be able to end it, but we definitely going to do our best today as we come to you on the Wayne Carlen Show. So let's get to it. All right. Today is October 21st, 2020. And I want to welcome you all the way from the West Coast. For those of you who don't know, I'm Wayne.
And from the Gulf Coast, lately termed Hurricane Headquarters down on the Gulf Coast here, I'm Carlen. And this is
the Wayne Carlen
Show. Now you know, now you know. Yeah, and as we were preparing for this show earlier in the week, we were going, man, it's been kind of a slow news week, nothing going on. But then, of course, the president isn't going to let that happen. so he immediately began his attack on Fauci, along with some other things that have propped up. And so Hunter Biden's in the news and all these things. So we got a few of those things that we'll talk about in today's show. So without any further ado, Wayne, go ahead and tell them what we got on tap for today's show.
All right. So, as you said, we got the Trump-Fauci drama. That's something we'll discuss. What about Ice Cube's contract with Black America? And then 50 Cent goes for Trump. And our main feature will be rules for dialogue role play, which I love doing. So issue number one, the Trump-Fauci. Oh, my God. It's just amazing, how we already know Trump says he doesn't believe in science and he doesn't want to follow what the scientists are saying. But the other day, he went off the rails. He basically called him an idiot, not just Fauci, but all the other scientists. He called them an idiot as well. And why are you listening to these idiots? But it was funny because, on the next interview, the same day, he said he's a nice guy. So where are you coming from, sir? Is he an idiot or is he a nice guy? So it's crazy. And of course, Fauci he's trying to not be political in his responses to it. He's not saying anything negative about the president. He's just telling people what he believes to be the answer to curtailing this COVID response. What do you think, man?
Well, that's the thing, you got to watch your words. And one of the features we're going to talk about in our rules for dialogue is, man, words are valuable, And so the minute the president says, he's an idiot, if you call somebody an idiot, that kind of changes the way you deal with them. You're probably not going to negotiate with idiots. You're not going to work well with idiots. So you got to watch the words that come out of your mouth. And I think the fact that not only did he say that, but he held him responsible and said, if I had listened to Fauci, we would have 500,000 deaths by now. And so that's a huge, heavy burden. And so I'm amazed that Fauci is still standing there. And so to me, that says a lot about his character, that he didn't respond in kind. But I did hear that he made a Godfather response, some line from the Godfather. And I can't remember what exactly he said. But he used some line from the Godfather. And I was like, okay, so he's trying to get back, trying to be tough at the same time, trying to be political, tactful in the way that he responds, which is what you should do. And so, yeah, it's kind of very crucial situation. And it's just sad for us to be at that state. And that's why I keep talking about leadership. Yeah, it's not a good thing.
I remember one time I made a post and I called somebody an idiot. I don't remember if it was president or some followers or something. And you jumped on my case about using that term, and using it loosely. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to just use that term. And now, I definitely don't want to be in the same company. So I appreciate that correction. So, Ice Cube, Mr. O'Shea Jackson, contract with Black America. Man, he's taking some heat from a lot of people on different sides, of the issues regarding this contract. I heard that he asked both the Republican and the Democratic parties to, speak with him about this contract. And apparently the Democrats said, not yet. Let's wait till after the election. But some Republicans said, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. And he's getting some heat for that, man. What do you say?
Well, my first point was I just now got hip to that was his real name. O'Shea Jackson. I was like, I never knew what his real name was. And I kept seeing in the article as I was reading about Ice Cube, and I kept saying his Jackson name. I was like, oh, then I figured out, oh, that's who Ice Cube is. I heard, matter of fact,
straight out of Compton, dude. You got to get caught up.
Yeah, I heard one. It's so funny too. And this is where you talk about cultural interchange, and I talk about erasing race, how we can get this cultural interchange. So I heard one of the news broadcasters on one of the stations, I can't remember which one it was, but they were trying to refer to that. They were talking about his contract with America. He said, well, and we were listening to Mr. Cube because they didn't know how to refer to him. They're like, they didn't know, call him his name. How do you refer to him? They want to make sure they're giving him respect. They said, so Mr. Cube, Mr. Cube says, and so that was cool. That was interesting. Hey, but in the big picture scheme of things, though, I think it's this thing that I talk about in Erase Race. We've got too many expectations for people once we put them in the box, and so that's what you got with Ice Cube. I mean, Ice Cube, gangster for sure, like I said, from NWA, from the roots, he's gangster. But once we put people in that particular box of where we think they belong, if they come out of that box, we're furious with them. And so you belong in this box, Ice Cube. You're one of our boys. You're in this particular genre, this lifestyle, this culture. If you step out of that, then there are going to be some problems. So he stepped out of that. And when he went, and because no way in this box that we put you in would you be dialoguing with President Trump. Because remember, we've made President Trump the racist. He's the xenophobic guy. He's this guy. All these negative things you could think about, we made him that way. And so if you don't step out of your box and go over and start talking to somebody on the other side. And so that's the problem I think he's had. And so a lot of people had a problem with him along those lines. And he fought vigorously and came back and said, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing, And he made the point that I appealed to both parties. One party said, I'll talk to you after the election. The other one said, I'll talk to you now. So I went and talked to them. And so when he was on CNN, he was battling with the CNN guy for mischaracterizing that.
I think everybody should go and read. I mean, there's actually some good points in there. There may be some points you don't agree with. But go in and read what that contract says. Maybe some of it is valuable. At some point we'll see. Nothing's going to happen.
The coolest thing about it was that in it, he made I don't know what I was reading, but part of it, he was saying, these are the things that we want to have on the floor of debate. To me, that's cool because he's saying, here's my view. Let's talk about it. And that's all I talk about in Race. We got to talk about it. Most people start out with this premise of, no, this is the way it is, and you got to change. Well, how about we talk about what we can do? Let's talk about the possibilities. Maybe that's where the solutions are, talking about it. So that's why I liked about it. Now, the downside of it was, to me, it was all about economics, which I think our problems are bigger than economics, although economics is a big part of it, how we got there, and we need to deal with that. But that's all the contract for Black America really is. And they say that in the introduction to it, and they talk about economic justice for Black America. And so that's cool. But his biggest thing is he's saying, let's talk about it. Because if I were President Trump's team, I would say, let's talk about that. And I would segue the negotiations there into talking about other things that I think are also important to that community. And I think because that's what needs to happen, is like, because that's one thing. And so we do want focus on that one thing. But I think there's some things that impact that would be just as vital. And we would at least discuss it because he's coming for debate. You can't beat that.
Well, and that's a great transition to our third issue with 50 Cent now coming out supporting Trump.
Rappers for Trump. What's up with that?
And obviously, one of the things that I read is that he's saying these things because he's obviously a very wealthy person. And the Biden tax plan plans on only taxing or bringing new taxes, higher taxes against people who are making over $400,000, dollars a year, which only affects a small percentage of people. And so most Black Americans don't make more than that. African Americans don't make more than that. So a lot of people are criticizing 50 Cent because obviously he's a very wealthy person, and that's why he's all in for Trump. What do you think about that? Why is he all in for Trump?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, and here's the deal, it always becomes this issue of what's in it for me. I mean, that's why we vote for people, because we hear them campaign about how they're going to help us out individually. And so while we do that in the context of our racial paradigm, though, we understand that we belong to this collective group. And so you get both of those things, because you get Ice Cube talking about contract with Black America. He's saying, so he wants you to put in some initiatives that cater to this particular group of people. And so 50 Cent is saying, and I want you to put in some things that cater specifically to me. And you see both of these are economic points of view from both groups. But one is speaking for the large group, and 50 Cent is saying, think about this, people. And I don't know if 50 Cent, if he's saying that because if you vote for Trump and he gets the tax break, he's able to do more things for the community. Maybe that's his perspective. And so once again, that would be another area where we'd have to dialogue to find out exactly what he's talking about. But that's an understanding that I have, is that they're both concerned about themselves as well as the larger community that they represent. And because when 50 Cent responded, he was saying, listen up, Black people, you all need to do this. And he was advocating Black people need to vote for Trump because of this. So interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you want to say. Wow. All right. So, and I like I said, and both of them sparked the debate. They sparked the conversation and the dialogue that is so important to what we do. And that's why at Erase Race, we have this big thing called Rules for Dialogue, because not only do we need to have a conversation, but we need to know how to have a conversation. And so that's what we're going to do in our Rules for Dialogue. If you remember last week, we did the role play so that we could understand how people needed to initiate the Rules for Dialogue. And that's just one step of the 6 steps that we have. So we want to cover more than that today. So I thought it would be good for us to do a role play that encompasses all 6 steps of the Rules for Dialogue. And so first, if we could, Wayne, let's do a refresher on those Rules for Dialogue that we talked about from last week. So go ahead and cover
Okay.
those
So,
and get into our role play.
all right. So those of you that were with us last week, you remember that we did a role play and we were talking about initiate. That's the very beginning. So you got to make sure that you started, or it won't start. It'll just be all out of whack. So initiate.
Remember that old quote people used to say, don't start none, it won't be none.
Won't be none. That's it. And then obviously the second thing is to disarm. Show that you came to talk and not to fight. So many times people start off in a fight already, and you're not going to get anywhere if you do that. Number 3 is humanize. All right. So humanize means to relate to the person, because they are like you. They're humans just like you. Right. So we must do that in the very beginning. Permit, get authorization to discuss the subject matter. I know that you're probably not used to doing that, but that's very important. Clarifying, make sure that you're talking apples and apples. So many times we're talking apples and oranges and peaches and watermelon and something like that. So we're not on the same page. We got to be on the same page. So you must clarify. And then lastly, obviously, is discuss. This is where dialogue begins, and all the other stuff was just preparing for this point right here. So that's our 6 points right there in our Rules for Dialogue.
All right, and this is really good stuff. So, and we'll try to cover more of this as we go through the month of October. And man, October's almost getting out of here, but we wanted to cover this all of October. And so if we got to go into November, making sure you get solid on these Rules for Dialogue, because I tell you what, this stuff not only works in a regular conversation with regular people via when you face to face, or when you're Zooming or FaceTiming, this stuff actually works on social media too. If you're thinking about this conceptually, you can segue this into some really good conversations on social media. So think about that. All right. So we're going to get to our role play, and our role play today. And of course, we're going to pick a topic that people are emotional about, because that's when you have your biggest disagreements, when you're emotional about something and you're really feeling it to your core. And so a good subject is always Donald Trump, because everybody's got feelings about Donald Trump one way or another. People got feelings. I'm the only guy who's like, yeah, well, I'm like, well, all right. I'm kind of like, yeah, it don't matter. But here you go. So Wayne's going to play the Trump hater in this scenario. I'm going to play the Trump backer. And in this first scenario, then we're going to show you what happens when neither one of the people understands Rules for Dialogue. They going straight to discussion, and the discussion is on. So that's what we're going to start with. And so, Wayne, it's on you as the Trump hater. You start the discussion and we'll just go.
And Trump is a racist, And he deserved to get COVID because he's been lying about it, just like he lies about everything else.
All right. Well, then if he deserved to get it, how about Kamala Harris and her staff? She had some people who got it too. Did they deserve it? Man, just thinking liberals, y'all kill me with your Trump hate. You just kill me with it.
Oh, but you ought to know hate because that's all Trump does anyway.
Well, hey, well, he has to hate. That's how he gets thrown at him. He got Nancy Pelosi to deal with, Chuck Schumer, the media, mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN. Everybody's hating on him.
Oh, but Fox News is neutral, right?
Hey, they're more neutral than MSNBC, which actually stands for misinformed news broadcast, because all they do is speaking lies. They still call themselves the news. Like, man, it's messed up.
Man, well, whether they do or not, Trump's knuckle dragging Neanderthals couldn't even understand it, even if they did. They're always too busy making America goofy again.
All right. So that's the end of our first role play. In that, this is probably the stuff that you experience on social media daily. If you go out there, this is the stuff, actually, you see this on news broadcasts. If you watch CNN or Fox, when they have two people from different sides of the issue, this is the way they go. And often they don't get to the subject matter because they're too busy casting dispersions, kind of like we did there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a second one. And in this particular role play, we're going to have the same people with the same views, but we're going to have one of them injecting the rules for dialogue. And in this particular scenario, it's going to be Wayne as a Trump backer. So as he speaks, you're going to hear him injecting these rules for dialogue. I'm just going to be the normal person. I'm a Trump supporter. I got my view, and I'm going to go where you go, because here's the key on so many of this dialogue. People go where you go. If you come in there hot, if you come in there fighting, like we talk about this arm, if you come in there with a weapon, then either I'm gonna put up a shield or I'm gonna pull out my weapon too, because the fight is on. So you can lead that, and so we're gonna see that in this particular role play. So let's do this with you, Wayne, still as a Trump backer, but you're executing the rules of dialogue, and I'm just a Trump supporter. All right, so we're ready to roll.
All right. You know, I really have some concerns about Trump's decision-making ability.
Oh, well, there you go again, man. It's just a hate, man. You've been drinking that Kool-Aid. You've been drinking Nancy Pelosi's Kool-Aid, man. That's your problem. You stop drinking that Kool-Aid, man, you won't have a problem with his decision making.
No. That's not it. I want to have a conversation with you about how he's approached some of these issues, because our kids are in the same grade and they get along fine. And that's the way I want to see them interacting. And I'm concerned that some of the things the president says can be interpreted to drive a wedge between them as they grow older and increase in understanding.
Well, so what kind of thing? I mean, what are you talking about? Give me some stuff. What you talking about, man?
Okay, so but before we start talking about them, I just want to be sure that you understand that I'm not trying to attack your beliefs on this matter, but I want to understand what you think about it. So are you okay with discussing this?
Yeah, man, just get to it. Yeah, I'm cool, man. Yeah, let's just get to it, man. What's your problem with it, man? Let's go. Yeah, what's up?
So my third grader, the one that's in the same grade as your child, came home and said that the teacher said that Trump is always right. And I have issues with the teacher saying that and getting my kids to believe it. How do you feel about this type of statement to our kids?
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter, man. But yeah, all right. That shouldn't be happening in the classroom. So yeah, I'm not down with that. Yeah, I can tell my kids what I believe or whatever, but I don't want a teacher telling them how to believe about any of these politicians. So yeah, that's kind of out of line. So, all right, so there we go. All right, so that's the end of that one. Now check this out. So in our final analysis of the different types, in that first one, it was just on a fight. He's throwing a shot at me, I'm shooting back. He throws another shot, I'm shooting back. And it's just defend, fight, defend, punch, defend, hit. All right. And that's the way so much of the dialogue happens. And here's the thing that you need to be aware of. Watch a news broadcast and you'll see the same thing happening on these news broadcasts. Even the commentator who's given a viewpoint, they give no credence to the other side, whether we're talking Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Don Lemon, all these people, and you can see their personal bias come out in the way that they start talking about these things. None of them really are thinking about it from this platform of, all right, I want to come objectively. I don't want to arm myself and attack. I want to talk about these things so that I get an understanding and so that we understand each other. All right. So that's what we had all this fighting in our first one. But in the second one, where Wayne was the Trump hater, but he was trying to understand and hear the other side, then you see how he initiated that thing when he came in. And he talked about, all right, because I came with fire, talking about your hate of Trump. Yeah, you just hate Trump. There you go, whatever. And he took it back, because that first thing he did, he took it back to initiate. And he said, hey, wait, whoa. Before we get started, let's just make sure we can have this discussion. I want to talk to you about this. What did he do? He showed the ultimate respect, which is what's so cool. When you show that ultimate respect, when he says, hey, no, I really just want to talk to you about this particular facet. I want to talk to you. And man, so a person can't stay nasty. You're going to go, all right, man. Yeah, well, all right. Well, we can have that conversation, because he showed that respect. So that's what we got. And the key thing I like to humanize, because what was the humanized thing?
Sure.
Our kids, we got our kids, that's human. You got a third grader, I got a third grader, we connecting, we're humans. I'm a dad, you're a dad. So, let's relate, And so once you get that humanized, then he went on and said, all right, are you cool with talking about this? Then we're good to go then. And look at that. So the guy, and I was the Trump backer who was not observing the rules for dialogue. By the time he got to the meat of the subject, by he got to the discussion, what was I doing? I was agreeing with him and his viewpoint. He got it out there nice and easy. And I was saying, yeah, that's probably something that should be happening in the classrooms, man. So we're good. Now anything else that we talk about, we've got such a base of understanding that we can have further constructive dialogue. And man, so there's some good stuff, and it really, really works. What do you think, Wayne?
Yeah, I love this, because I've, experienced it, so many times recently, where, a year ago or 2 years ago, and I'm always a person who believes in peace anyway, but I'm also good for arguing. I will argue some points, but now I understand that it's not just about winning an argument. It's about having a discussion where, where we can all grow. And I was having one this morning on Facebook, and I refused to get pulled into the fight part about it, because me and the person I was having with have long since humanized, because we actually work together, and we built a relationship so we can disagree. And we were just talking about how divisive things have become in our country, and where we're going to go from here. So it's a good discussion, and hopefully something good will come out of it. But yeah, these rules for dialogue really work, and everybody should be using it.
Good stuff. And another point I want to make about something that we got coming up as we get ready to close out our show here, and talk about how you can be part of the solution, because definitely adhering to rules of dialogue and learning to have dialogue with people that's constructive, keyword constructive. Everybody can have dialogue, but a lot of the dialogue is not constructive. But one of the things we're doing in that effort, I will get back to holding some of the forums. I was holding these forums where we would sit and we would discuss some of these topics, so that we could bring everybody into a more, I guess you'd say, congenial environment where there wasn't the hate and bitterness happening. Because regardless of how people came, when you observe these rules for dialogue and you see the respect being shown in the room / the Zoom room, when you see the respect being shown, nobody's going to step out of line, because most people, I think, are pretty humane in their treatment of others, and so that's not happening. So we're going to have more of those forums. But one of the other things we're going to start advertising this week, which starts next Wednesday in the afternoon, is the Erase Race book and discussion club. We're going to have an opportunity to take a book, which we're starting. Our first book is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, and we'll do 3 chapters each week. And so we'll begin with the first 3 chapters, and we're going to do that for 10 weeks. It's got about 30 chapters. We're going to get through it. And so anybody that wants to come, we'll advertise it out on our Facebook page, and we'll have anybody coming in so that we could have some really good discussion on her book, Cast. I'm about chapter 7 or 8 in the book. And it's been interesting. I was telling somebody the other day, I could do my whole Erase Race campaign with just that book, because it covers a lot of depth. It's got the historical aspect. It's got definitely the racial things. And bottom line is, she's saying the stuff that I'm saying about we got a racial hierarchy, and that's what we need to deal with. She didn't say how we need to deal with it, but she identifies it. And so she can identify it. I will deal with it, and the world will be a better place. So that's where we're headed. All right. So tell them how they can be part of the solution there, Wayne.
Well, you guys, if you've been with us before, go visit our website, eraseraces.com. And if you want to support us, you can do it by purchasing some merchandise. We got t-shirts, we got hoodies, we got face masks, we got some great things for you. for you or your family members. You can purchase those things there. You can also just donate. We definitely need your support. Right now, we're doing a lot of work on Zoom, but we're still reaching out, preparing. So when the COVID issue is curtailed, we can get out there again, start visiting cities. So, and also we need volunteers. So some of you have already done that, appreciate it, but we need others in different cities across the country, because this is not just a localized thing, just not Texas or California, but this is going to be all over the U.S. We are going to need it after this election, even more so. We need to bring this country back together. Our thing is unity, nothing else. A lot of people don't believe that, we can erase the whole racial issue, but we can definitely create unity. And when we do that, you'll see it'll start to fade. So very important. Thank you guys for your support. Jump on there and help us out.
All right. And that's it. We thank you for joining us on this edition of the Wayne Carlen Show. Now you know, now you know. See you next week. Hopefully live next week on Facebook instead of this thing we had to do today. All right.